how do you pull something off of GitHub? Nobody tells you that the little download button is hidden.
The README things don't really get into that. And oftentimes there are not wikis, like you click on the wiki and it doesn't go anywhere because there isn't one associated with a lot of those repos. And there probably should be, right?
Everybody on GitHub assumes everybody knows how to use GitHub. I mean, but to our detriment, everybody on Linux thinks everybody knows how to use Linux. So,
right, yeah. No, I get it. No, all around. Both ways.
Okay, hold up. It's because I don't download crap off GitHub a lot. How do you download this thing?
Where are we? Which thing?
Style Pack.
Style Pack?
I got raw, blame, go to file, little drop down thing, doesn't give me jack.
Style Pack.
Where is the download to?
All right, so there is a oh, geez, it wants me to log in. I don't need to log in. Do I need to log in? Remind me later, okay?
Oh, wait, code. Oh, download zip. Ooh.
Right, so code, download zip. That's one way. Plan B is, well, you still go to code, but you copy the copy the thing. It's got a little copy button, right? And you git clone, boom, and you'll bring down the whole repo that way.
Hold on, copy what now?
So if you hit the code button, there's a little button there that'll copy a link to your clipboard, right?
Oh, and then git clone, and then the files are there uncompressed.
Git clone, Control-Shift-V, and...
Yeah, but most distros don't have Git in there, and then that means you would have to go in and install Git.
True. Yeah, I mean, those are your two options, though. Coming up on this episode of Linux User Space, browsers on browsers, Manifest v3 is not for me. Audacity times 50 speed. Krita sees a big release. So far aWayland from me. And tag, you're it. Hello and welcome to Linux User Space. I'm Dan.
And I'm Leo.
So Leo, we got a little bit of feedback on Reddit from our Void Linux episode.
So we cross-posted over there and got some cool feedback from user Duncan?
Yeah, Duncan.
Something like that.
Yeah,
but we got a link in the show notes to his profile if you want to go check it out. But he provided quite a few links for us to take a look at that we didn't find in time for our Void Linux episode. One of them, and this seems to be mostly erased from the internet, but did you know, Dan, did you know Void Linux was almost called Vanilla Linux?
Well, and that really makes a lot of sense when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, very much like Arch, right? I mean, a lot of the stuff is just unconfigured, or configured as default.
And it lets you assemble it all together, so the way you want it. So it's very vanilla.
Exactly. So I thought that was super interesting. And XBPS source, the kind of, I guess you can think of it as like the AUR analog in Void Linux.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had that named as PKGFS originally.
Okay.
So just some nifty information. And some other stuff like the very first ever bring up of XBPS. There was a video of that on Juan or Extreme's blog that we did not find.
Yeah.
We got a link to that as well in the show notes. So that's just some really good reading about the original, original thought process and stuff like that behind Void Linux. So if you're still interested, if our history didn't scratch your itch, go check out that set of blog posts as well. There's some information that we didn't add to the show.
Yeah, no, it's an amazing bit of history there. It was a fantastic distribution to research. We'll have the links in the show notes, and you can go check them out too. We also got a couple of emails from Kyle S. And this was related to a couple of app focuses that we've had in the past. In particular, Style Pack and System Monitoring Center. So we were like Kyle's rubber ducky, if you will, and like his soundboard. So that he sent us 2 emails. The first one, I'll basically, he says he thanks us for the podcast and extremely grateful for the information and entertainment that he gets from us, which is, well, thank you for listening and for your support and your feedback. So
that's exactly why we do it.
Exactly. So, he says he's new to Linux. He's only been around since like 2018. But he was trying to get Style Pack and System Monitoring Center installed on his Linux Mint 20.2 system. So it can be a little confusing, so I completely understand where you're coming from. And, Linus Tech Tips recently did some videos. We talked about those a little bit too. And they bumped into some of the same stuff. When you're trying to run things from GitHub, it's not always, glaringly obvious. And I get that that's a tricky deal. And so at the end of his first email, he says, can you point me to a web page that explains Barney style what to do with these types of files so I can learn how to install them? And we could probably do a little better just verbally on how to do some of these things. And we'll try to do that, I guess, in the future as well. But in particular, 2 different styles of applications here. So one you can download as a Debian file for his Linux Mint distribution. That would be System Monitoring Center. And he figured that out, right? He says, Deb.
Yeah, the answer is double click on it, right?
Yeah. Because at first he was extracting it. And yes, you can extract a Debian file with your archive management tools and pull all of the bits out of it, but that is really not the way you want to go installing it, obviously.
Right.
So he figured it out, used GDebi, which he had installed, or you can use, there's other tools too, right? Or if you really want to get down to it, you can just do apt install path to your deb that you download.
That's actually usually how I'll do it. On a fresh install of a Debian-based system, I have to go out and get VS Code because it adds its own repo, and like Microsoft Edge because I like to test in it, and Discord because it's quicker. So a few different debs, and what I'll do is I'll do apt install. Star.deb, something like that. I'll have them all in my download folder. It'll be empty, right? Because it's a fresh install. I'll download all my debs and then do an apt install of all the debs in there, and it'll get taken care of super fast, so I don't have to double click on each of them,
right? And
then click install, and then double click on the next one and click install. So it's just a nice way to kind of do that. But we've entered nerd territory.
We have. I'm just saying, like, if you get down to it and you figure out, well, I don't have a thing, apt is there for you to do that, right?
Specifically with elementary, right? You don't get one out of the box. You have to go find one, and as long as you know that Eddie is the answer.
Eddie is the GW for elementary. Yeah,
right.
I get you. No, so remember though, if you are in the terminal, remember tab completion can be your friend. That lets you know that you're on the right track potentially. Right. As far as it doesn't make you have to type out the whole name of something and forget that part of that was an uppercase, because case does matter. And a lot of the debs that you'll download, I don't know if you've noticed this, Leo, but they're uppercase, lowercase, numbers, hyphens, dashes, underscores. I mean,
I'm not trying to type all that. I get the first letters done where there's no ambiguity there. Hit tab and it just takes care of the rest, because
tab.
It's like 100 characters long. I'm not doing that.
Don't drive yourself nuts. Use tab.
He found the answer, which was just double click on it.
And GW's cool. Use GW. Right. That'll work great. So, okay. That one's easy, out of the way, got it installed. Nice. The other one is a shell script. So,
here we go.
I know. We downloaded a shell script from the internet, and here we are. Although he stumbled around and did figure this out too. Well, he moved it to his home folder under bin, which is great. That's a great place to put. That's a good place to organize all of your binary executable things that are yours for your user. I'll totally agree with that. And then you want to execute that, and it's not in your path, so you have to tell it that it's in this folder. So that's what the / is going to do, right? Prepending the binary name or shell script name.
Right. There's a bit of a trick there, though. If there was never anything in your home folder in bin,
right,
then you will need to reboot before bin is added to your path automatically. You can add it and then, do that whole process, but it's just easier to just like chuck something in bin, restart, and then bin is already added to your path, and you don't have to like go into bash RC. You might not even need to reboot.
You might just restart your
maybe
session.
Maybe a log out.
Yeah, restart your session.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I just reboot all the time because there's always kernel updates that I'm waiting on.
Yeah, depending on what you're doing, but restart your session at least, and then it'll source the new path. That's
exactly.
You can force it to do that, but that's complicated, and don't do that.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, just restart your session, restart your machine, whatever you're gonna do, and it'll take care of it for you. That might have been part of
it. Could be
the problem that you were seeing, where you were typing in style pack and it didn't work.
Right.
That may have actually had something to do with it. Bin may not have been part of your path at that time.
The other thing is when you downloaded that, it may not have had the executable flag associated with it.
Also true.
So you could change the mode on that and add the executable flag. Some of the file managers will also let you do that if you just right-click the file and you could say make executable. That's an option too.
It sounds like he's on Mint. So yeah, just right-click properties and there's a little checkbox underneath. I forget what tab it is, but at the very bottom of the permissions stuff, you'll see allow to run or allow execution or something like that. You check that box, hit OK, and you're good.
So there's that as well, right? So, all right. It sounded like you figured that out. You got the thing to run, which is great. So then he tried to add his theme, did that successfully, tried to add it as a system. Didn't need to do that because it's already installed as a system theme.
Right. Okay. So there's a couple of issues here, right? Like you're already on Linux Mint. So I think the theme, and I checked before we started recording, the theme is is a Flatpak already, and it's already installed. So I don't know that you actually need to do that.
Right. If you had a different theme, though, say you had Arc or something like that didn't come with Mint, by default, you might want to run this, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
it's those wacky themes, like the Mac theme that is not default in any distribution, and they haven't thought about it far enough or cared about it enough to go and add that to Flatpak so that it will be consistent.
Yeah. So here's the other thing. It sounded like you tried to run a couple of applications that were Qt based and not GTK. And one thing we totally neglected to mention was, or maybe we did and we just kind of glossed over it. I don't remember.
Well, I feel like it was my oversight because mostly I deal in GTK applications. Just recently am I starting to move over to the K, whatever,
the Qt
this
stuff.
Or that. And the 1K app that I do have installed is Krita, and that's dark by default. And the header bar is, it looks right. So I was fooled. I was fooled into thinking it was integrating into my system, but it actually wasn't. It just luckily, I lucked into it being a good looking app on Linux Mint.
So that's another thing, Lo. Some applications don't really take the system theming anyway. So like
Audacity,
or Telegram, or because they have their own built-in tools for that, right? So you got to remember that as well. But we didn't touch on the Qt versus GTK application differentiation there either, or if we did, we totally glossed over it. So StylePack is only going to work for your GTK Flatpaks, really.
Yeah, I think what we did do was we said GTK apps, and then just left it at that. And but it totally leaves out in the cold anybody that's trying to run Qt apps. And I did verify. I mean, I went in, I installed KCalc and Kid 3, wink wink, and yeah, both of those were light mode, which is not what I wanted, and none of them kind of conformed to the GTK-ness of my Mint desktop.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was just a bit of an oversight on my part on that.
So there are some limitations there with StylePack. I think we've summarized most of the emails here and answered the final question. It says, if you have any Flatpak recommendations to highlight whether the theming is actually being shared, I would love to try and see if I have actually have this working. You probably do. Like what I'm saying is you probably do have this working. But a couple of the applications that you tried aren't going to highlight that for you. So
right.
So I have a love for StylePack because most of what I'm running, I'm on a Qt desktop, right? So most of the Flatpaks that I'm running, I want them to look a little more like my Qt theme. So and like I don't have any GTK themes installed.
Yeah, this actually might work way better
on better
a
for me.
Qt-based desktop.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, better for me.
Because the apps that would look weird in a Qt-based desktop would be the GTK apps, and this is a way to force GTK apps to conform to the Qt style.
Well, so there's like a Breeze GTK or Breeze Dark GTK. Those exist, so I can make that look a little more natural. So it's kind of nice.
So I guess the bottom line on this one is that StylePack probably wouldn't have helped you very much in your situation because Linux Mint's pretty diligent about that kind of thing and has already added your theme as a Flatpak. So it's probably about as good as it's going to get at this point.
Yeah, sadly those Qt applications are kind of lag behind a little.
Darn those Qt applications. Every time. It's always the Qt apps that look weird, Dan. You need to tell them to fix that.
Sorry.
It's okay. We're about to break it again. It's okay.
Yeah.
You can have any theme you want, just as long as that theme is Adwaita.
Adwaita. I know. Thank you very much, Kyle, for the emails. We really do appreciate it. I'm glad we were able to talk about it, and hopefully it'll help somebody else. All right, Leo, time for some topics. Our almost always favorite browser watch is first up.
Perennial browser watch. Here it is again. We made it. Yeah, and it used to be Firefox, only Mozilla Watch, but now we've expanded, and this is going to expand even further with this first topic. So DuckDuckGo has sort of in a blog post announced that they're going to come out with a browser too. Right. But they already had a browser, right? They had the mobile browser on Android and iOS, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do.
So that is basically a skin on top of Chrome, more or less. But it adds some security things and privacy, a lot like when you add the browser extension for DuckDuckGo, how that'll block some of your, some of those things already. The mobile version is very much like that, right?
Right.
But this is...
it kind of in the same way that Vivaldi is a skin on Chromium.
Yeah.
I think
not quite that far, but close. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this first blog post that we're reading here, they say that it's not going to be based on Chromium or Mozilla, which the details are very sketchy, I guess, as far as the implementation details, or just not available yet. But it's going to be different.
There's a quote. It says, instead of forking Chromium or anything else, we're building our desktop app around the OS-provided rendering engines like on mobile. Mm-hmm. So on mobile, they're using, I suppose, Chrome on Android, and they're using the Safari engine on iOS.
They have to, yeah.
So it sounds like what they're doing. I mean, there is no built-in Windows.
Well, I don't know about Windows, but like maybe WebKit, I guess, or
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what this means. Like none of us really know what this.
Yeah. So, we haven't heard very much more about this, but I mean, so DuckDuckGo's browser that was on mobile will now be on the desktop.
Mm-hmm.
But details are scarce. I'm
a little bit
interested, though.
I'm interested as well.
In whether or not this is going to be a browser that is supported, that supports Linux at launch.
I would hope.
I do too, because I think a lot of folks that tend to run Linux also tend to skew more private. Not all. I mean, obviously, there's no way to paint everybody in a group with one brush. But I would suppose that the more people that run Linux, the people that do run Linux are more privacy aware than other folks. I think it's just because, I don't know, you got to be at least slightly more nerdy to even consider Linux in the first place.
Yeah.
And that kind of lines up a lot with privacy concerns.
Yeah, I think it aligns. And I see no reason why they wouldn't be able to probably come out on multiple platforms, if not all at once out of the gate, shortly thereafter.
Mm-hmm. That is going to be something pretty interesting because they have this really cool fire button, right? I mean, it's kind of like private mode in all the other browsers. When you're done with, being private, you just close the window and everything is gone.
Destroyed.
They have a button for that, but it's in the main normal browser. Right. So you don't really have to worry too much about, leaving tabs open.
Think of like shredding your tab, right? I mean, that's kind of cool.
That's exactly what it is. Yep, absolutely. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see that browser because I would suppose that the DuckDuckGo search is going to be default in that browser as well.
Little, those little bits are probably going to be sprinkled about, which would be cool.
Right. And I guess this is a good thing, right? Because if the DuckDuckGo browser uses DuckDuckGo search by default, that's going to bolster their 46% increase in search traffic that we saw this year.
Yeah, that's a big increase.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it is a big increase, and it's gonna push it forward towards the top. I mean, I don't know what. I guess there's a few that are kind of hovering, up there, right? So you've got Google's obviously the one that's at the top, right? Everybody's chasing.
Yeah,
Google.
I've got hard numbers for you.
Okay,
this is like the desktop wars, right? I mean, Windows has a massive share.
It's way
Mac OS has a sizable share, and Linux exists.
Yes.
So this is the same way.
Yep.
Google search traffic is 87%.
That's pretty high.
Then you've got Bing.
Yeah, I figured that was next.
Distant second at about 6%.
Wow.
Yahoo at 3%, and DuckDuckGo at 2.5%.
Okay, so Yahoo's in the sights there, really, at that.
Yes. We're about to see DuckDuckGo over the next few years likely surpass Yahoo as the third best search engine.
It's not a bad place to be.
Right. And I feel like, most everybody sets Google as the default search engine, so they get a lot of that. I mean, I personally go in and set Firefox to DuckDuckGo, but I don't imagine most people do.
Well, it comes that way out of the box. I mean, people, open up Firefox and Google's your thing. And if you don't ever change it, which a lot of people probably don't.
And I suppose every browser does this, right? I mean, well, every major browser does. Vivaldi, what is Vivaldi set to?
Bing, I think.
Is it Bing?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, Edge is Bing as well, obviously. Yeah, Chrome and Chromium are obviously Google.
Yeah, Chrome. Yeah. So I mean, it's because the browsers themselves are probably more prevalent. Chrome, that is. It is obviously going to take over the search. I mean, it just comes that way out of the box, and then the second most popular browser, Firefox, right? Also comes with Google. That that creates an uphill battle, I feel like. So
Right. But anyway, it's interesting, though, that the DuckDuckGo search has made it up that far that fast. They have not been around as long as Yahoo's been around, and yet they're nipping at their heels. So Brave Search, right? I mean, I don't know where they are on the list, but
off the list as far as your heart numbers.
I would hope that these guys do a little high five. Brave and DuckDuckGo just need to do a little high five and, put their heads together and make something fantastic.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of room for that kind of thing.
I do too. Collaboration would be cool there.
Mm-hmm. But speaking of Brave,
yes,
Brave has added some additional privacy components that nobody else has. So just recently, they have added network state tracking, blocking for pretty much everybody. All right, so weird words to mean that in almost every single browser, there are some little bits of information that websites can glean from your browser, like what DNS resolved the name to bring you here. What kind of fonts are you using within your browser? What certificates have you brought along with you? What kind of cache is stored back behind all of this stuff? And well, while Firefox has made a whole lot of inroads as to blocking pretty much all of that, they haven't done this yet. If you can kind of think of the multi-tab container thing that we've been talking about in Firefox, this is not groupings of tabs. This is every tab. So every tab is isolated away from every other tab, and they will let information that pertains to the page get in and out, but not between tabs.
Right.
So you don't end up with a situation where, you're shopping on one tab and going to Facebook on the other, and now Facebook knows absolutely everything about what you're shopping for, where you've been, where you're going, what you click, how fast, where your eyes are, where your mouse is, all this stuff.
So then you get a bunch of ads about the things that you just were looking at over on the shopping site in your Facebook now.
Exactly, right? So this is just something that I feel like is just interesting that, again, nobody else has. So
yeah. Well, all these websites, they try to make a fingerprint of you, if you will, and collect all the things and put it all together. And so any little bit that you can dismantle and turn those into crumbs rather than a fingerprint, I think that's a good idea, because then you don't get this stuff that carries over and targets you. That's the word.
Right, exactly. So the coolest thing about this is that Brave and Firefox are pretty much now neck and neck as far as privacy features goes, but Brave pulls ahead just slightly in that Firefox never clears this information. Not when you close the tab, not when you close the site, not when you close the tab grouping, not when you close the window. Not never. That stuff is back there unless you go in and manually clear your cache and all this other kind of
private browsing or something crazy like that, right?
Right. So like the private browsing section would clear that out.
Like you don't surf every page that way, yeah.
Right, exactly. So you've got to go in and manually do that. But Brave does it after you leave the site. So not just when the tab is closed. They go further. If you go from Microsoft.com to Brave.com, it's cleared when you leave the website. Right. So Brave, even if they wanted to, couldn't even glean the information about where you came from. So that's really cool. Safari does a lot of this as well, and they clear it when the browser's closed. But that's pretty much it. Chrome and Edge, no and never. They don't partition off any of that information from any other tab, and they'll never clear it out either. So you pretty much have your entire browsing cache just ripe between Chrome and Edge for Facebook or whoever decides they want to dip their hand in that cookie jar and figure out where you've been, who you are, what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you want to buy, all that kind of stuff. But Brave, Firefox, and Safari are way ahead in that. So
nice.
Privacy stuff. And I'm just happy that between Firefox and Brave, those two browsers tend to be dragging everybody else into the future.
They do. They definitely do.
And Chrome will do it too after they can no longer make any money off of you by doing it. So, and then I guarantee you there'll be a blog post where it's like, guess what, users? We're respecting your privacy now by no longer allowing third-party cookies to be shared between two different tabs.
Well, they found some other way to do that for,
Well, Flock, right? They've already done it, and once they have to kill it, they'll spin it as positive to the user.
Don't worry, we're gonna look at this, but we now we got this.
Yeah, Chrome was the right choice. Right choice. Yeah, and Edge is not really that much better. So,
You added another link here, Leo, and I've got to ask. So, another browser? Really?
Okay, hold on. I was doing some research for a separate, slightly unrelated topic and stumbled upon, so Ghostery is an extension that's been around for a little while, and they were probably one of the original groups that figured out how to block tracking. How to this cross-site tracking stuff, this third-party cookie stuff. This was probably for a good 5 or so years your best bet to keep advertisers off your tail.
Yep.
And it blocked a lot of ads too. But I think something like Ghostery and AdBlock Plus at the time.
Yep.
I think uBlock Origin was in its formative years.
Yeah.
But AdBlock Plus I think was probably the de facto standard at the time.
That was very popular.
Yeah, so between AdBlock Plus and Ghostery, you had a pretty fantastic ad block and tracker blocking suite, and it was pretty browser independent.
Yeah, extensions and whatnot, you can add them anywhere, right?
Right. So, Ghostery now has a browser. I don't know how long they've had a browser. I didn't go in and actually research, but I have to add it to Browser Watch because it's a browser.
Yeah.
It's called Ghostery Dawn. And it looks like it's a Mozilla fork. It's a Firefox fork.
It looks very, Firefox-esque.
Yeah, and I'm not positive if this is like pre-quantum or not. It doesn't look like it is. I think it looks modern, but it doesn't have the thinner icon set that came with this most recent. What was it, like 70 whatever? I don't know. It was or 90 something. I don't remember. But anyway. A recent 90-something update changed the icons and some of the theming around Firefox. So I'm not exactly sure what it's forked off of, but the coolest thing about it though is that, as I mentioned before, AdBlock Plus and Ghostery together were a really good ad and tracking prevention kind of duo. Ghostery has just integrated it into the browser itself. So if you're looking for a browser that is no muss, no fuss, you just turn it on and you're probably one of the best tracking prevention type browsers that you can get your hands on. This is it. And the reason that it made Browser Watch is a Linux version.
I see that. Yes.
Yep.
This is cool. I'm probably, hey, why not? Let me add it to my list of lengthy browsers that I have installed on this machine and add it to the list and get it installed and see what it's all about. And hopefully we can talk about it again in a future Browser Watch.
Right. I stopped using Ghostery a while back when Firefox started adding in a lot of the tracking protection, and pretty much just went with the built-in stuff with uBlock Origin, and it's been pretty good. But I think it's worth a look.
Yeah, it looks all right. I mean, you could probably install it and just go out of the gate without having to mess around a little bit, potentially, right?
Right. Exactly. Right. You don't have to add anything to it. It's just
there.
out of the box, ready to go. So that is really cool. But we've been talking about, over the past few topic episodes, we've been talking about Brave Search. We've been talking about DuckDuckGo Search. Well, they did that too. Yes. So Ghostery also has Dawn is their browser, DAWN, and Glow is their search engine. And it works as you expect it to. These guys don't track you. They don't remember you. They forget all your searches and just give you generally good searches. So you can do that with an add-on. Obviously, it's built into the Ghostery Dawn browser, but you can get it with an add-on to your browser as well. So that is just really cool. So obviously, you can go to it's Ghostery, so GLOWSTERY.com.
Yeah, we'll have a link too. Yeah,
we'll definitely have a link. It's pretty, if nothing else.
It does look nice, and I will say there's a couple of there's another extension here. It looks like it's called Insights, and basically gives you some feedback on trackers and things that requests and what it blocked, I guess, too, probably, and latency on pages. And I don't know, that looks pretty cool if you want to really dive in and see what your browser is blocking and, that sort of stuff. What your browser is doing and the performance of it. That looks pretty cool, too.
Right. And if you use Ghostery as a search, a lot of those insights are added directly into the web page. So, like, you can, whatever you Google, next to the URL, not the big link that you click on, but slightly underneath the description and everything, you see the URL. There's a circle, colored circle, and a number that will tell you. So, like, I searched up Ubuntu, and you can see all trackers seen on Ubuntu.com. You can see 5 advertising trackers, 3 site analytics trackers, 4 CDN trackers, 1 essential tracker, 2 social media trackers, 1 hosting tracker. So it's got all of this information, and if you want, you can click on the statistical report and get who these trackers actually are. So if you want to say, well, I don't mind those particular trackers, you can actually back that up by saying, well, because I know who those trackers are, and I like their privacy policy, or whatever. I mean, honestly, the tracker's always Google, so I don't know how I trust them as far as I can throw them.
Right.
But it's there. I think for privacy conscious folks, it's a really good search engine because it's going to give you, I think, results on par with Brave and DuckDuckGo searches. But it's also going to give you the added benefit of looking at what it is that you're going to get yourself into when you click on that link.
It gives you the heads up view of where am I going here?
Right. Makes you scratch your head. Do I want to go there? I mean, you probably do anyway. I mean, you probably wouldn't search it up otherwise. But I mean, you know what you're getting into, and I think you can ignore the information. That's totally fine.
Yeah, knowledge is power, though. Yeah,
the information is there for you to see and make a decision based on, and I think that's pretty fantastic. So who'd have thought Ghostery entered the browser game? I don't know when. Maybe I'll figure that out. But
that's pretty cool.
It's an option. How weird.
Well, didn't know. Now we do. So this next topic.
Fit your tinfoil hat on, folks.
Yes.
Get it out of the drawer. Dust it off.
Get it aligned and polished up and shiny. Right up here.
We're gonna dig up some scuffles from 2019 and talk about what it means to us now. I guess a quick synopsis is going to be, I guess this is your cue to skip ahead to the next topic if you don't want to hear about this. So Manifest v2 is something that Google has been using as their extension platform for years. And in 2019, they announced a move to Manifest v3. And they claimed at the time, I mean, they still claim, that this move is going to protect users and it's going to speed up the way we experience the web. That sounds like great stuff. Right? I want to be protected, and I want my web to be fast.
That's how you market things.
What's not to love? Lots of things, apparently. Back in 2019, as this was announced, you had devs like Gore Hill of uBlock Origin, and I've got quotes later, of others complaining that Manifest v3 will fundamentally break the way their extensions work by preventing the usage of an API called Web Request. I mean, Web Request is an API that allows you to basically manipulate elements that come up on a web page.
Okay.
Right? So if you've ever used uBlock Origin, You've gone to a web page, and where you would expect to see the ad that you saw before you remembered to install uBlock Origin, it's just content. Like the content is taken from where it would have been and scooted up into where the ad was. That is what the web request API would allow you to do. Much more than that, but it allowed you to manipulate things on the page.
Right.
As an extension. So you weren't the web page or anything like that. This is uBlock Origin doing a bunch of amazing magic in the back to make your web browsing experience way, way better.
Right.
Every time I forget to install uBlock Origin, I click on a web page and I'm like, wow! And that took twice as long to load up.
Yeah.
So, after hearing all of that, I was actually pretty dismayed to hear that Mozilla, a short time later, I couldn't get a lock on the day that Google announced that they were going to do Manifest v3, but shortly after that in September, Mozilla announced that they would align as much as they could to Manifest v3 so that extension creators can easily port over their code to Firefox. That made me sad because of what Gore Hill and a lot of the other developers were saying about how this is going to basically break their extensions. Well, turns out, though, I didn't need to be dismayed, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So, the whole point of Firefox kind of aligning to Manifest v3 was to make sure that developers that were developing for the broader Chromium ecosystem of extensions could easily, with a couple of tweaks, just port it over to Firefox, right? That's why you see so many of these extensions in both the Chrome and the Mozilla add-on store. So they also noted, though, but the way that they said it, was weird. Like we're probably going to, continue adding web request as an API or something like that, right? The way that it read sounded like mealy-mouthed politicking, and I didn't like the way that they put it forward. So in the back of my mind, it was, is Firefox going to do this or not? So anyway, again, that'll come up a little bit in a little bit. But I've always maintained that Google's move to Manifest v3 and the devs' response, I mean, the people on the ground that know how these API changes are going to affect them and their extensions, they said that it was going to break ad blocking and pro-privacy and anti-tracking extensions. But I've always maintained that that the move to Manifest v3 wasn't exactly what they were saying. It wasn't to, protect users and speed up the way we experience the web. It was because Google's de facto money maker is advertising and tracking.
Well, yeah, they're an advertising company.
Right. So if they can write a standard that would basically sidestep all of these extensions' efforts to tamp down on Google's ability to track us here and there and make money off of the, where our eyes go and what we click on, conflict of interest there. I think it's in their best interest to make sure that doesn't happen. So enter Manifest v3. So this is why I was kind of dismayed that Mozilla didn't 100% stand by the fact that they were going to implement web request or not. Anyway, remember that claim. We're going to protect users. We're going to speed up the web. Well, Kevin Borgolti of Princeton and Nick Feamster of the University of Chicago in 2020 found the opposite. I think anybody that knows what uBlock Origin and Ghostery and all these other extensions do, you didn't need a study to know that those extensions, while they may take CPU cycles to do what they do, speed up your web traffic.
Well, yeah, you're not rendering images and pulling it in from, because they're coming in from multiple locations, and so each one of those is a lookup someplace, and you got to pull it all in. And
anybody that's gone to a major news website with the autoplay videos, knows exactly what we're talking about.
Even if it's just pictures, it's not videos. It still is adding a lot, right?
Right. they wrote a paper, and I brought a quote out from that paper that I feel is extremely important, and it really kind of summarizes exactly what it is that they were meaning to do with this. So, here's the quote. We have found no evidence that privacy-focused browser extensions substantially negatively affect performance, neither for Google Chrome nor Mozilla Firefox, contradicting Google's claim that the functionality these extensions rely on is a performance concern that justifies severely restricting privacy-focused extensions and limiting users' choice. To the contrary, albeit some extensions perform worse, we identified multiple extensions for which almost all metrics indicate that they would improve user experience.
But that's been our experience, just so you know.
Yeah, a summary of the summary is, I think they were lying, guys. There's an ulterior motive there.
They spun it for their, own advantage.
Right. And I think that's the main thing. So the idea that I got with their with Google's Manifest v3 announcement and the devs that pushed back against it was right. There's ulterior motive there. I mean, maybe, right? Maybe there's some truth in it, in what they're saying, but I don't think they're referring to the same things that we're referring to when we talk about fast web.
Right.
The whole reason that this all came up was that the EFF has been following Manifest v3 for quite a while, and recently they've written an article called "Chrome Users Beware: Manifest v3 is deceitful and threatening." And I don't think there's really anything particularly new in the article, but one of the things that caught my eye was that they went around and found a ton of quotes from a ton of these companies and developers and just aggregated them for us. Yep. So I pulled out a few. There are some long ones that are really worth the read, and I recommend you go click on the link. So Andrei Makshov of AdGuard, so an ad blocking extension, says, nearly all browser extensions as you know them today will be affected in some way. The more lucky ones will only experience problems. Some will get crippled, and some will literally cease to exist.
Ouch.
Gildas of Single File, this is an extension that lets you save entire web pages. For Single File, I consider the migration to Manifest v3 to be a major regression from a functional and technical point of view. It also undermines some of the work done. Unfortunately, it doesn't bring any gains in return for the users. It is the very example of the collateral damage the Manifest v3 can cause. Then Ghostery. This earlier was the research I was doing on this stuff and what kind of spawned the Ghostery browser bit. But they say Manifest v3 is a detrimental step back for internet privacy. And those are just 3. There was like 10. And some of them were long-winded that I wanted to put in the show. I just couldn't do it for time.
No, I get you.
So go read those.
I do want to go back to the single file one, right? So that's a very popular thing for people to, grab entire web pages. You don't want all the junk in there too, along with the actual content that you're trying to save.
Exactly.
If you need to reference it later, some place, that's horrible. That gets broken.
Exactly. So, yeah, and those are just the short ones. So, by the time you're hearing this, Manifest v3 is imminent. January 2022 is when it fully starts to go into effect. There's some additional things that have to happen in 2022 for it to be in full effect, but the point of no return is as you hear this.
It's underway.
But luckily for us, I was dismayed before. But Mozilla recently doubled down on the web request support. So the thing that Manifest v3 will be removing, they're going to keep it. Nice. Which means that Ghostery, Single File, uBlock Origin, all of these extensions that will essentially be inefficient at best on Chrome
or Chromium
will
based.
still work Yeah, they'll still work as normal
on
Firefox.
Nice.
That
it's another reason to use Firefox, right? I mean, if it gives it that performance enhancement, a lot of people are going to look at that too. And
well, I'll take that even further. It is a good reason to use Firefox because it seems like Firefox is the only one that's trying to go head to head as far as privacy and tracking is concerned up against Google. But that doesn't mean that the tracking protection that's baked into Vivaldi or baked into Brave is going to be affected by this. It's just extensions that'll be affected by this. Right. So if you got Vivaldi and then you added uBlock Origin, it'll be affected. But if you're just relying on Vivaldi's tracker and ad protection, that'll be fine. That's not going to be changed because Vivaldi's tracker and ad protection doesn't depend on Manifest v3. It's not an extension. It's literally written code to handle all of this. But if your protection comes from extensions, you want Firefox. That's going to be the only way anymore, as far as major browsers are concerned, to handle this. There's just no other way around it.
Wow.
So what do you think? What do you use any kind of protection kind of extensions or anything like that?
Well, I don't on Vivaldi. I just dial that up, and block the stuff there. On Firefox, I do have the DuckDuckGo stuff, which does some of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it gives you page ratings and whatnot. So I use that there. I don't really use a lot of the other browsers often, just enough to test things out and see how they work and whatnot for the most part, like Chromium and Edge I use, but I don't add anything there, but I really only use it for work things, and I don't go anywhere else with Edge. So I'm just going to, work related stuff.
Right. So, So you're essentially your tracking profile there is basically all work related anyway. So
there's nothing to track. I'm not going to any commercial, sales or any of those types of things.
Right. Yeah, and I keep my work profile nice and neatly inside of Chrome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I totally understand that.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because we use the Drive suite.
Well, we're Microsoft, so I mean, so I'm using the Edge there. So whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I think both of us, we know what we're getting into when we're using those browsers and using those services.
Right.
But I think it's a lot of the Google Chrome folks that use Google Chrome because Google Chrome was on the Google Chrome page on the Google page that they clicked on, and it said it was fast.
It's crazy popular.
Right.
Yeah. No.
Right. This is a lamentation for them. That maybe it's enough to get you on a different Chromium browser, but maybe it's enough to get you on Firefox, because for as much as we want to talk about Firefox and how they're doing the wrong thing, they're doing the right thing here.
This is the right thing,
this is an important
This is what we hope for.
Right, because Manifest v3 is imminent now.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening.
I think if somebody's going to grab another browser to be different, they're probably looking at Firefox.
Yeah.
That's probably the number 2 thing that you would go grab to be different.
Right.
So
go get it. Get off Chrome. You know what? If you take nothing away from this other than get off Chrome, I'll be happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what browser you use. I mean, even Edge to some extent. Get off of Chrome.
Right.
Yeah, do that.
I agree. All right, Leo. Here is a bold claim from a product that we've endorsed in the past. Piece of software.
To our detriment.
Yeah, perhaps. And we still continue to use it, though. So there's that as well.
Yep.
So Audacity. New release 3.1.3, And they're boasting a 50 times speed up to loading projects. So that's a bold claim, I've got to say. And
it's bold.
I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one to time, but I feel like that might be a little over the top potentially.
Maybe it is. I don't have the tooling.
Yeah,
I don't have the tooling to get you the hard numbers to say, no, it's 48. They were wrong. I don't have that. But what I can say is that I do a lot of audio editing. So
yeah, we do a podcast.
When I opened up yours and my projects, after I got done with them in Audacity, I can open them up again. I would normally get a progress bar. It would take a second or two.
Not long, but a little bit, yeah.
Right, exactly. Now, on the newest 313, nothing. I double click on the project and
so it's definitely faster.
There, yeah. So I don't know about 50, but it's definitely been sped up, and that is
that's great.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah, and there's some other nice things. There's some user interface updates that they've done to it. I really feel like they're doing really good work back there. But I really feel like this is not really.
Well, it's been quiet for a little while, right? So it's been quiet for a little while in the Audacity land.
Well, I feel like a lot of it's running under the radar, and I also feel like a lot of it is the fact that there are a lot of people that wrote Audacity off after the Muse group takeover because of the tracking and whatever, and then they walked that back, and they said, well, it'll be opt-in, and then but everybody was still upset with them for having even uttered the word tracking at all. So, Audacity is good. I still use it all of the time. Audacity, not a fork, not one of the others, not Tenacity, not whatever. Every single episode, and I still use it for any of the additional stuff that we do. So I feel like the bigger question than, what's new in Audacity is Audacity still on everyone's no install list? Do you still, are you one of the folks that sit back and say, oh, well, the one in the Ubuntu repo is still fine, so I installed that one, so you use Audacity that way? Or have you just taken to using Tenacity or some other of the forked projects? Or do you use the latest and greatest Audacity like I do?
Or do you use one of the alternatives that we recommended a while back too? And, maybe use, K-Wave or, the GNOME sound recorder or something. If you're just doing a really quick recording, maybe you just use one of those. Well, do you go full on DAW and get into like Ardour and stuff like that? If you're because that's an option too, I suppose.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line?
I'm curious. Yeah. And even if you don't do any kind of any kind of audio editing or production or anything like that, would Audacity still be on your no install list?
Right.
I'm just curious what the general temperature is in the room, because I didn't like it, but I didn't really worry about it too terribly much either.
Right.
And then once they came out and said that the tracking was going to be off by default,
they walked it all back.
Why not? I don't see why not.
Right. I think if they'd have came out of the gate with that to begin with, there would have never been any hubbub.
I don't know. Linux folks really like to talk about telemetry all of the time.
They do, but if it's not on, then what is there to complain about? I think that's true. It got shot back a little bit, at least. It's unfortunate that it's there, but it would have been a lot less. It would have been subdued. As far as
it would have been the hardliners only, as opposed to the hardliners and the privacy conscious folks,
right?
Yeah, definitely. So what's your take on it? What do you think? Is Audacity on your list to install if you need to do a little recording or something like that, or is it still on the never gonna touch it ever again because they messed up this one time?
Well,
two times. I don't know. Maybe they messed up more. I just don't know about it, right?
Definitely, dear listener. Please let us know and what you think. But I'll let you know what I think. I'm okay with it as well, like you, Leo. None of that stuff is on by default. So whatever, I guess. It records, my audio, and I can do some light manipulation to it, and I'm good if that's the thing. So
yeah,
it is not. I could do it in a different tool, but it works probably easier and better than most of the other ones. So there's that. All right. So if here's another tool that is I don't know if we've recommended, but it's a very cool tool. Not for audio, for visual things. This is Krita. Krita 5 has been released, and it's seen some major updates, I will say. I feel like this has got some feature enhancement.
It deserves the whole number from 4 to 5.
Yeah.
It deserves that bump because it's got a lot of new stuff.
There is so much here. It's jam-packed. One big thing that I'll highlight that it didn't have that it probably needed was the storyboard editor feature. Some of the other editors have that, and this catches them up a little bit. So I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Yep, I have a couple illustrators in my life, and one of them has specifically said that Krita is not an option because it does not have storyboarding built in. There are tools, $200, $300 tools that have this stuff built in,
yep.
And they would rather pay the money to those companies than use Krita because it didn't have it. You could kind of like cobble it together for yourself, but I mean, it's not the same. It's not the same as having a real storyboard editor. So that I think is the biggest thing there. But it also comes with a revamped animation system. And while I am no illustrator, nor am I any really good with graphics at all.
Yeah, well, same here.
This has kind of piqued my interest because, before the show we were talking about, maybe we want a little bit more flair on the logo. And, I've been dealing with, as from the email from Kyle earlier asking, hey, is there a kind of Barney style explanation of this or that? And that's kind of what Terminal Tricks, my YouTube channel, was meant to be. And then it's just gotten stale. But I've been looking at it again, and as I've got a little bit more time, maybe that needs a little bit of a revamp. And so the fact that it has a revamped animation system,
yeah, that's cool,
is really got me looking at Krita for maybe some of these intros that I'd like to do. I mean, it's not expensive to just go buy somebody else's work, but I also do kind of feel like I want to learn a little bit about how this stuff works.
Yeah, well, I mean, and these tools are here, so why not try to learn, with the ones that are available to us is the way I look at it, right?
And not that they need it, right? But a little bit extra amplification as far as, talking to other people about what tools you use and how good they are and things like that. It's always nice. It's always nice to just, because, as you and I know, Dan, I think social media is great, but word of mouth is probably the best way to get people interested in whatever it is that you're doing.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Just a little bit of extra help if I can figure out how the heck to use any of those tools.
Well, there's that. The other thing that it has is a session recorder, which is a kind of cool feature, I think. So, it can kind of keep track of you as you build your project along, and then turn it into, I guess, its own thing onto itself on top of your project, right? So
yeah, think of it kind of like a time-lapse video of all the things that you did during a session. You can record that, and then turn that into a video, or use it as an element of something else.
Yep,
and it's just nice. It's a nice little touch. Yeah, you don't need that. You could use OBS and do that.
Yeah, you could,
but or some other tool, but the fact that it's built in to the tool that you're already using to do the animation, the storyboarding, or whatever it is that you're doing is just a nice touch that they didn't have to add, but they added it. And I think it's quality of life stuff like that is, hey, we got the thing that you said that you wouldn't use this software until it was there. Well, it's there. Also, it's got a session recorder, so you can record it all and then pump out more content or something like that.
I've got to think for like educators and stuff that would be helpful.
Oh, especially for something like that. Yeah, right? Absolutely.
So I think this is cool.
Yep. If you're on the lookout for some kind of image editor, Krita will probably do it for you. Obviously, GIMP is still out there and will do a fantastic job. But there's a lot of things I want to do with logos and intros that kind of make Krita a little more appealing for me. And I remember saying a while back that, I won't really consider Krita until the 5.0 because I remember they were talking about 5.0. They were going to bring a lot of features. They were going to do a lot of things. And there were going to be some interface changes. And I was like, well, I don't want to disrupt my GIMP workflow and learn another workflow and then just to have that workflow interrupted again when 5.0 comes out. So I said I would wait. And well, the wait's over. It's here. Yeah. I think it's time for me to dive in.
I think so as well. I'm excited to see your creations, Leo. You always seem to come up with something great. So
mediocre at best, but I'll take great. I'll take it.
Well, I think they're great. So that's cool.
All right.
This was an article that I noticed on Phoronix, and I know you noticed it as well. This is about Wayland. Wayland uses less energy than Xorg, which is pretty cool. And so this particular article was about KDE Plasma and power consumption there on too. And that's because they did the same thing in GNOME, but it was like a while back. So that wasn't really included in this article. So big power improvement, I guess, if you will, which is great for the mobile devices, laptops, probably, and tablets in particular. Saving about 3 watts during usage, which is that's a lot of power.
And it sounds like a tiny amount of power, right? You say, "Oh,
I don't think so."
That's just 3 watts. Well, I mean, some of the nicest laptops I've ever had were 65 watt tops.
Yeah. And
some of the laptops that I have now, and some of the laptops I have now are 45 watts.
Right.
So we're talking at least a 5% savings.
Yeah, that's
on what it is that you're doing day to day, minute to minute.
That's quite a bit.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is. And when you're talking about multiple hours, that adds up.
Right. You're talking about an entire battery charge. Now, I get it. It might turn out to be 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes in the long run at the full life, 100% to 0% of your battery.
Yeah, but 30 minutes is quite a bit of time.
Yeah, especially when you need that last bit of battery juice and you consider that the battery would have been dead had you been using Xorg 30 minutes ago. But because you were using Wayland, because you're on a more forward-thinking distribution that ships it, well, you got an extra 20 minutes.
Yeah.
30 minutes. Maybe that is the difference between getting something out and, panicking and searching for an outlet. Yeah, so there were some not so great things. So because this article was about Plasma, there was a lot of benchmarks done by Michael Larrabell over at Phoronix on the Plasma side of things. And while that slowed down performance a little bit in Plasma, you still got that energy saving. So I think as far as Plasma goes, it's very dependent on what it is that you're actually doing.
Right.
But the fact that we're seeing that at the beginning of the inception of these distributions adopting Wayland and using it by default, we're already seeing a lot of improvements. And Wayland, I would still consider to be pretty early as far as development goes. I know it's been in development for a long time, but you don't really know what kind of problems you're going to hit until people start using it. And now
when you start turning it on to the
it.
mainstream, I think that's when the problems really come out of the woodwork, right?
Right. This last version of Ubuntu just turned Wayland on by default.
For GNOME, yes.
Right. But as we've heard time and time again, that very few people actually use the interim releases,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're going to see massive
Well, Fedora's had it on too
improvements.
for a little bit, and so that's probably also another place that's helped, I think, suss out some of these issues as well.
Right, but if the insinuations are to be believed, pretty much the vast majority of Linux users are on Ubuntu. So once
they are.
2204,
No, I'm not disputing that. I just meant like people, Fedora's fairly popular as well.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, that's another place.
I feel like once 2204 comes out, once it's May, Wayland will have a lot of work ahead of it.
It'll have a lot of bug reports.
Yeah, well, yeah, it definitely will.
But that's okay, because that's how you move forward.
But yeah, exactly. And I think that's going to be huge.
Yep,
it's going to be huge for Wayland, and that's going to be the make or break point. I don't think it's going to be break.
I don't think so either. I think we're beyond that, right? We're beyond the so critical I can't operate bugs. We're into the nitpicky things at this point.
We're into OBS is being finicky now.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a lot of that work has been done, and now
it's a screenshot or something. Yeah, stuff like
exactly.
that, right?
But I think that polish, that last 10% is going to be what pushes Wayland over the edge, and everybody decides to update it. But obviously there's going to be some distro like Dev1 that decides, well, we never ever want Wayland.
So we'll fork something, and and then we'll never add Wayland. We'll be the X server forever.
Well, there's going to be an XDev1.
NixDev1
or something,
right? X Ubuntu. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they'll name them, but yeah, it'll only have X server.
Yep. But Michael Larrable went even further, and we saw an article just a little bit before actually recording the show where Wayland, more often than not, has better gaming performance on both KDE and GNOME.
Yep.
So we had KDE and GNOME, both X and Wayland, and then we had XFCE on X, kind of being somewhat of a control for all of the testing.
Sure.
Looks like GNOME is, and this makes sense because GNOME had adopted Wayland prior to Plasma adopting Wayland, so they just have had more time.
They got a head start on it.
But GNOME sees the most benefit out of swapping to Wayland and this gaming performance. But that doesn't mean that Plasma doesn't see it as well.
Wow.
So lots of games tested. F1 2020, so it's a racing game. Formula One showed a small spread of about 6 frames per second between all of the options, right? So, I mean, KDE Plasma on X, XFCE on X, GNOME on Wayland, all of that.
6 frames, that's quite a little bit, though.
And from the worst to the best was about a 6 frame spread. And that sounds like a little bit, but just like the battery life savings of 3 watts,
it all adds up.
It all adds up. And I guarantee you, if there is a hardcore gamer in your life, ask them, can you tell the difference between 60 frames and 54 frames?
They'll tell you yes.
Oh, yeah. And you'll see the fire in the eyes. Like, are you kidding me? 54 frames is trash.
Yes.
Like that kind of thing.
100 frames are nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Give me, yes. If you're not saturating the pipe, don't even talk to me. But then you had games like Batman Arkham Asylum, which showed GNOME improvements of about 14 frames.
Wow, that's frames. A big jump.
Getting 14 frames extra on Wayland as opposed to Xorg. And then Plasma similarly saw 5 frame improvement on Wayland as opposed to X. So the work that these desktop environments and the Wayland devs themselves are putting into this implementation is paying off. It's paying off,
I think so.
We're starting to see the fruits of a lot of that labor, and I'm excited. I'm one of the nitpicky people that's like, well, OBS doesn't quite work exactly right on Wayland, so I'm going to stick with X for a little while. I'm still in that group, but the fact that I can look and already see that Wayland is going to be much better than X in day-to-day is exciting to me.
Well,
and once I'm able to use it for everything, I don't think I'll have much to complain about.
Well, I mean, it's an option that you can switch to in your login manager. So
Yeah.
if you know your game is going to operate better in Wayland, it's just a quick log out, log back in, and you didn't have to really reboot or anything. And you can be, full performance. 14 frames. Now, that is something that you will probably notice.
Yep, absolutely.
And so I feel like if you're going to start gaining, 10 or so frames per second,
14, yes.
and more, then it's totally worth the switch.
Absolutely. So there were, and you'll notice them if you actually click on the link that we've got in the show notes. You can actually see that there were some games that did not have a Plasma Wayland score. It's because there were a few games that just didn't work in the Plasma Wayland session. So overall, Plasma needs some work. But again, as I mentioned at the top of this segment, GNOME has had a head start.
Yep.
Plasma's got some work to do, and that's perfectly okay. We knew this going into the thing, but the fact that we're getting improvements already is amazing. So
I feel like we're closing in on it a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm excited. But I feel like we're going to have the same argument that we had with System D about Wayland.
It's going to, well, yeah, maybe. It is going to be a long way to get there, I think. Still, I think that last little bit is going to take a long time, but it'll be very usable, for the most part, for a lot of people in that time. So there's that. I
agree. It's going to be good.
Housekeeping.
The
Linux and open source community has some fantastic resources. We want to make sure to highlight that. In our showcase for this episode, we want to draw your attention to the Linux Experiment YouTube channel, and I'll have a link to that. Nick does a great job with his channel. He has excellent delivery and breaks down the content so that anyone can understand. He starts you from ground zero and builds you up from there. Now, I know, this came up in our meeting session. I think we were talking about the Linux Experiment. And so that was, that sealed the deal for me. That's why we've got to pick this YouTube channel. Because I know you watch it. And his content's pretty great. His calm demeanor, the way
he's a very soothing guy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just fantastic. And he does have a love for elementary OS, and he's unapologetic.
Well, pretty things. I think pretty things.
But he's unapologetic for that, right? So he'll let you know. But there's nothing wrong with that. He makes a good case for it, honestly. So I feel like he explains his position extremely well. And he does that for everything that he touches on, really. He explains the position super well. So
and one of the things, one of the more recent ones that I saw him do, because I've been looking at Plasma a whole lot more lately, but he had done, and I can't remember the length of time, but it was at least a month where he spent on Plasma, just trying to do everything on Plasma using the KDE apps in all of their forms and kind of giving some pros and cons about it.
Sure.
So I saw that one, and then short time later, Nicolo Verandi, who is one of the KDE Plasma devs, did a reaction video to his reaction videos. But it was all good content. Yeah. I mean, it was, everybody was fair.
Right.
I think that's the kind of
that's what
Linux and community interaction that we want.
Yep.
I don't think not a tear was shed. Nobody yelled anything.
Nope.
Nobody said "Arch, by the way."
No.
It was nice and constructive conversation.
I'll agree with that.
About how to make things better.
So
I mean, but of course, Nick was the catalyst for that,
right? And
I very much appreciate kind of the stances that he takes, what he does, the content that he puts out there. That he gave Plasma a real chance, and came out with very positive outlook, on what it is, how it can improve and things like that. So, real good content. I mean, look at the subscriber count. I don't think we need to give him the bump, but
we don't. But
I feel like we should, because it's just good
It's the good
content.
stuff.
And if you haven't seen it yet, you should go check it out.
Yep. So go check it out. I'll have a link in the show notes. And yeah, good stuff. Feel free to send your emails to contact@linuxuserspace.show. And much like Kyle, we can discuss it on the show. We love our patrons. Thanks to everyone for your contributions. We truly appreciate your support. If you want to join the other patrons, please head on over to patreon.com/LinuxUserspace.
That'll get you one of the tiers. The contributors tier will get you access to early
access.
That's usually about 2 days early. Access to the audio version of the show.
Yep.
And if you're on the producers tier, you can sit in here.
You can sit
with us.
Here, yeah, with us.
Watch our beautiful faces.
Live.
Live as we do this and make mistakes and do terrible things and laugh about it and then go do it.
And, got a little before show and after show, that sort of stuff too. So
stuff that doesn't ever make it to anything.
Nope, it does not.
That stuff is stuff that you'll get to see.
We have our Matrix room, linuxuserspace.show/matrix. You can hop on over there and join in the fun and the discussion. We usually have a couple of good conversations going on, so always fun over there. And then we have our Telegram group, linuxuserspace.show/telegram. And if those aren't enough chat platforms for you, as we mentioned, we have our Discord server, linuxuserspace.show/discord. Please follow us on Twitter @LinuxUserspace to get all the latest announcements for this show and for highlights for things that impact your user space. You can watch our faces on YouTube, linuxuserspace.show/YouTube. And as we mentioned last time, we did have to change YouTube channels. But that shortcut will still get you to the new place. So we'll keep on working on the old place and getting things moved over somewhat slowly.
Yeah, we'll get it there.
We'll get it there. We will. Our newest social addiction is Reddit, and you can find our subreddit, linuxuserspace.show/Reddit. Lastly, don't forget to rate this podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast application, and like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. You can always get more information at our website, linuxuserspace.show.
Are you ready?
I'm ready, Leo. I'm ready for this next one because
it's time to focus.
It's very focused. We're gonna put some tags on it so we can get organized.
All right, what do we got? We got Kid 3, and then I said, "Well, why don't we just do a doubleheader here?"
Yeah,
because
you did say that.
Yeah, you use one and I use another one, but the job that we need to get done,
it's the same job.
Adding metadata. We need to add metadata to files like Linux user space and the name of the episode and all that other kind of good stuff. So Kid 3, that was the original focus.
It was, because I use it every episode, every single one that we upload. I am tagging, I'm tagging the MP3s and the MP4s that get uploaded to YouTube as well. Now, I don't know if they get stripped off on YouTube or not, but I don't know if YouTube puts its own spin to that, but I do it anyway. So I don't know if I'm wasting my time on that or what, but.
Well, it's good for the file that you still have, Dan.
So, it is.
There's benefit there.
Absolutely. And definitely is good for the MP3s, though, because if you download those straight up from Fireside, it'll have the tags applied.
Right.
So
Exactly. So these applications, both Kid 3 and EasyTag, are meant to take these files and add things like title, artist, track, album, year, genre, album art, things like that.
Oh yeah, the album art, that's a biggie.
Oh yeah, that's kind of important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have these audio files, I mean, especially if you have like CDs that you have ripped sometime in the past, and sometimes the CDs actually add the metadata to it, but a lot of times they just don't.
Right.
So I guess it depends on the label that you're getting your stuff from, but either way, if it doesn't have that information, both of these, both Kid 3, which is a KDE application, and EasyTag, which is a GTK application, they will both help you organize that stuff. So when you import it into some kind of audio player or something like that, it reads correctly. It tells you everything you ever wanted to know about that particular track, all the way down to the year that it was published. So it's just really nice to be able to have a nicely curated set of information, essentially, with every media file you have.
Depending on your media playback application, lots of times if you just have it running in the background, you'll still get a little notification that this track is running, and what the name of it is, what the album it is. And so you can see a little notification up in the corner. This is now playing, if you will. And if you don't have any tag on there, then you don't really know, and it's like no fun.
Yeah, it just says it says so like boring. Unknown or something, and that's not helpful.
That's so boring. So this lets you apply those, and it can put those things right in your face.
Yep. Exactly. So it's just nice to have. I mean, both Dan and I use it all of the time. Dan tags all of the Linux user space stuff. I still help out over at the Mintcast group, so I tag all of their stuff.
Right.
So I mean, these are just really useful applications when you want to curate all of your stuff. It's very good for stuff like that.
Both of these are available as a Flatpak. So easy install there. They come as a deb, but there's packages for just about every distribution, I think. There's a lot.
These are very established programs that I would be extremely surprised if whatever distribution it is that you're running, it doesn't matter, all of them.
I think
if they don't have them in the main repository where you have to do zero work, whatever package manager you have, install Kid 3 or install EasyTag, and it'll pick it up. It's there.
So the other cool thing, though, I'll say about Kid 3 anyway, is it's available on Windows and Android. Now
that is a huge benefit.
That is just amazing.
Yeah, of all the K apps, really. I mean, I think most of the K apps have this kind of cross compatibility. So, if you're going to get one and you want it to be able to be available everywhere, it's probably going to be the Kid 3 one.
Yeah. So, and macOS. So, macOS, Windows, Android, and then as well as Linux. So that's amazing there. I believe EasyTag is available in Windows.
Is it? I actually have never checked. I use MP3 tag on Windows, but
I feel like it might be available in Windows as well. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but it definitely it's not isolated to Linux. I did notice there was another platform that it was available on, and wow,
there really is an EasyTag Windows installer.
Yeah, so. Darn neat, right? So these are
that is super cool.
These applications are ubiquitous. You'll find them in other places.
Yeah, I did not know that about EasyTag. That's fantastic.
So one of the things is, how do you use it? Well, you just fill in the blanks. You can fill in the blanks, or there's actually online databases that you can pull the information from and import them, which is even easier. And it'll do multiple files, so you can do, like, say, a whole album worth of files, and it'll do them all at once, and apply tags to all of them. So that's also pretty cool. And like, you can copy and paste between different files as far as the tags and stuff too. So that's also pretty neat. it can get pretty advanced. So I do recommend, reading the instructions in the manual if it gets too deep. But for the most part, yeah, like I said, just fill in the blanks.
Next time, we wrap up all of our thoughts and feelings and everything else, all of the experiences that we've had on NixOS. And this is going to be one of those distros where it's going to be out there, man. Nix is not like any other distro that has been on this show from day one. Not a single one. OpenSUSE, Tumbleweed, only kinda comes close in very limited ways. But Nix is something different and special. And wow, you don't know what you're biting into until you actually get into it.
It is deep,
but
I don't hate it though. I don't hate it.
No, not at all. I mean, you've got to take off your traditional. This is how I've done things in Linux forever.
I have an appreciation for it.
Mm-hmm. It. There's one thing you can say about Nix, and it's Nix is reproducible.
Absolutely reproducible.
So we'll have a little bit of chatter with you, and we're gonna spend a lot of time talking about where Nix came from, where it goes, where it's going, and kind of what we think about it at the very least at the end of all of this. So stick around for that. Come back for that. We'll have a good time talking about everything Nix.
Well, thank you everyone for listening and for your support. We really appreciate it. Where can we find you, Leo, on the internet?
You can find me at Twitter at Leo Chavez.
And you can find me on Twitter at KC2BEZ. Join us in 2 weeks when we return to the Linux user space.
Oh, yeah, my generic advice of don't talk to it like a human. I remember the commercials back in the day where you could just type in, how many miles is it to, this place over here, and how long does the carnival stay open? And, Google's pretty good about parsing that. Mm-hmm. But once you start getting into technical questions and something like that, you really got to talk to it like a robot. Because if you don't, you're going to get a bunch of cruft. And then quotes, man. Quotes are, they'll save your life. I actually messed up. This is how I figured it out.
Isn't that what video editing's all about? You messed up somewhere?
Pretty much. But I realized you were off a little bit, so I brought you forward, and then I realized that messed up the cut. So, I couldn't do... there were a couple of things additionally that I wanted to do that I couldn't do anymore unless I, undid, the past 8 things and then redid them all. I didn't want to do that. So, I don't know what possessed me to double click on the middle part.
Frustration.
Probably. But it did that wipe, and it looked, I mean, it's not like it's perfect, or it's not like it's amazing or anything, but it's way less
cleaner.
Yeah.